For today, we're going to create a Revit commands. Part 3 of my lessons. For today, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run a script that will give you access to a Visual Studio solution where a lot of the stuff we did last time is already kind of done. Like the add-in file will work and it'll work with the solution. You'll be able to debug it and run your Revit commands. We're going to review a little bit about these important interfaces that Revit commands use. We'll talk about data structures in C#, as well as discuss a few important Revit API objects that we'll be working with. And then we'll actually create a command. There's a couple examples. We'll be selecting some walls and setting some parameters. But just to get started, everyone should navigate to the M drive. So the operations folder, drafting, Addin drafting training. And then in the class 3 folder, you're going to want to double click this drafting training.bat batch file. This is going to copy over a bunch of contents. And it's going to copy into your documents folder, which then you'll be able to open up and work with. It may take a couple minutes because of the VPN. So
you said just copy the whole class 3 folder?
No, just click on this batch file. So double click drafting training.bat.
Oh, drafting training. Okay.
And because it already knows where to copy everything.
Oh, wow, fancy.
Yeah, I got an invalid path note.
Yeah, me too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we can just copy and paste the old-fashioned way.
It looks like it's looking for your on your C drive, program data, Autodesk, Revit, add-ins.
Really, you can't find that, huh?
Well, I can't get to your C drive.
Oh, my C drive?
Do you want me to share my screen with you?
Oh. No, it should be fine. It's okay though. We can just copy and paste it manually the old-fashioned way.
So the whole class 3 folder then? Or just the drafting training folder?
So we'll do this. We'll copy the drafting training and Revit add-ins folders. For the people that just came in, we're in M, drafting, Addin drafting out training, class 3. We're going to copy and paste these two folders, named drafting training and Revit add-in, into your documents folder. Just copy and paste them in there. You're on VPN, so it could take, I don't know, a minute or two. So after that's finished, we're going to copy this Revit addin file into another folder. That's the program data thing that we need to go to. So we're going to copy this folder or this Revit addin into C, program data, Autodesk, Revit, add-ins 2018, and copy into this folder. Let me know if anybody is having issues with those steps.
Yeah, I think I missed what other file I'm supposed to copy.
Sure. So in class 3, it's the Revit addin file.
Hello. Revit addin.
Hey, Celine.
Oh, that was V talking to Steve.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was Celine. sorry, Celine.
But say hello to Celine as well.
Oh, sure. Hello, Alan.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'll mute myself.
And where do we copy that to on our computer?
Which file, Kendall?
The Revit add-in.
Into C, program data, Autodesk, Revit, add-ins, 2018, and that's it. So if you can't find any of this, you could just type it into the search bar up here to see program data, Autodesk, Revit, add-ins, 2018. It'll take you there. I don't know why that batch script didn't work.
It got that file that you just noted there, the one in the Autodesk folder, but I'm not sure it did the others.
Okay. So has everybody done those steps, or is anyone waiting still? Are we good to go?
You kept navigating away, so I was trying to look at your screen to see where I'm supposed to paste it.
So I'm sorry, which file?
So I copied the add-in.
Yeah.
Let me just open up all of the
Yeah, that would.
folders so you can look at it.
Yeah.
Program data, Autodesk, Revit, add-ins 2018. This is where you want to copy to for this Revit add-in.
Alan, it's just that single file, correct?
So it's this file and it's these two folders. It's
Gotcha.
Revit add-in and drafting training. Let me know when you get it, James, and then we'll just jump right into it.
So it says, am I going to overwrite a file?
Maybe this batch file actually copied already.
Oh, yeah, because the date says 12/10, so
Yeah.
I guess it did copy it. So
Okay.
I guess I can skip it then.
So you'll know in a second because we're going to open it. So let me just close it. Close what we have over here. Yes. So I think if you go to your documents folder, open the drafting training folder. This drafting training.sln file, if you double click on it, it should open up Visual Studios. And when you open up Visual Studios in your Solution Explorer sidebar on the side here, you should see a Revit add-in project. And if you open up this references thing, you should see no yellow warning messages. Anybody sees yellow warning messages?
I have two.
Teach you how to, you have two?
Yep.
Are they for Revit API and Revit API UI?
Yep.
Okay, so when that happens, you're gonna have to right click on it. Let's see, properties. You need to change this path. Let's see that. So I think instead of doing that, you should just delete it. So remove those two references, Mike.
Okay.
And then you're gonna want to right click on this references, browse, and you're gonna want to find those two files. So it's gonna be in, you guys could just look at it, but it'll be in this folder.
Okay,
See
hang on.
program files, Autodesk, Revit 2018. And you're going to want to find Revit API.dll and Revit API UI.dll. And then once you have those two files, you want to hit this add button and it'll add them to your references.
Okay, Revit API.dll.
You can click one and then control click the second one
Right.
to get them both.
Okay, got them.
So then now you should see them with 2 checkboxes over here.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And all of these red error messages should disappear. And now we have to just configure Visual Studio so it's able to debug our code. So actually the first thing you want to do is go to this Revit Addin project button. It's a C#. You want to right click on it. It's like all the way on the bottom, there'll be a little wrench that says properties. You want to click on that after you right click it. And then this little properties window will pop up. In the debug tab, you want to make sure this start external program radio button is clicked, and it says it's going to Revit. So when you press the start button, it'll debug using Revit.exe. If your thing it doesn't have this, just click on this radio button, browse, and then find Revit. It should be in the same folder you found the APIs in. So then you just want to find Revit.exe. Does anybody not have that?
I don't, but it'll probably take too long, Alan, to do it. So I'll just follow along.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're able to navigate to this, hit open. And there's one other thing that we need to make sure to do. After it's starting from Revit, we need to go up here at the top under debug. It's going to be kind of in the middle. And then you're going to want to go to options. It's on the bottom with the little wheel symbol. Under general, you're going to want to scroll down to about 3/4, or maybe a little more than half down. And then you need to check this checkbox that says use manage compatibility mode. If you don't check this, you won't be able to debug your code. It'll just keep like crashing every time you try to start it. Were you able to get to it, Mike?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else having trouble or not wanna? Okay, good. So just to review what we have here, kind of building from last time, we have a Revit add-in. It has to implement this external application interface. Inside of it, there's 2 methods. One is called on startup. So when your add-in gets registered, it does on startup when it starts up. This add-in that we've created is going to create a ribbon tab called drafting training. I think I already have it loaded. I don't yet, but I will. And it's also going to add a button called mullion, or actually, yeah, called mullion command. And it's running commands when you click on the button. Any questions about that? We're not going to actually do any code. I'm just kind of explaining it. You can add more buttons or do whatever you want during this on startup method when Revit starts up. Same with on shutdown. Okay. So we also have this other, if you navigate in your Solution Explorer, we have this other class called walls command, and it implements the external command interface. When you click on a button, when you click on something in Revit, when it executes, it'll execute this, I call it execute method. And then this is like where your command does all the stuff. There's some objects that Revit kind of gives you when you run a command. I wrote them for you because we'll be accessing them today. You don't really need to worry about them too much, but each of these objects, the UI application, UI document, and selection, these all will allow you to do cool stuff in Revit. Any basic questions about that? Okay. So now we're gonna start. Let me just close what I was working on. So we're gonna start Revit in debug mode. And what this means is we're gonna start Revit with a debugger attached to it. So we could actually set these breakpoints. And when it's loaded properly, let's see, drafting tab. When it's loaded properly, we could actually set these breakpoints and then see where our code stops. We could stop it and then like look at our code and see what's going on in the background.
So did you just start Revit normally?
No, you have to start it by clicking inside of Visual Studios. In the kind of upper left-hand corner, there's a button that says start with a little arrow symbol. And then when you press this start, like I mentioned, you'll start Revit in debug mode.
Right. Yep.
So you should be getting Revit starting up, and then it should complain about loading some add-ins. And then when it's done loading everything in, you're going to get a bunch of tabs, one of which should say drafting training. And then there should be one button without an icon. It says Mullion command. How is everyone doing? Having any trouble? Is anyone able to see this?
I got a problem.
What is the problem, James?
It says failed to initialize the add-in Revit addin.app because the assembly C drive users JSON cool source blah 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 class library 1 DLL does not exist. I feel like that was DLL from a while ago. Did it copy a DLL?
I think that's it must have not copied it for some reason. Maybe you're not able to copy to that folder, James. But to fix that, I think you could easily fix that by changing this to class 1 instead of saying app. Did anyone else have that problem?
Yeah, I had it too.
It says class 1.
It doesn't say anything. I mean, it says app, but if we change the app to class 1,
Well, did you get James' error message?
yeah.
Yeah, try changing it to class, change this app to class 1.
Do capitals matter?
Yes.
So
Okay.
class 1 or class library 1?
So what is, can you share your screen, James, and show the error message?
Yeah. Okay, where's my share button? Oh, there you go. There it is. You seen this?
Class library 1.dll. Revit addin.app. No, that's right. Users send a cool source. Yeah, it must be that file didn't get copied for some reason. Can you navigate to that folder, James? Program data. Yeah, it's a hidden file, so you need to change your settings next time. Autodesk, Revit. add-ins 2018. And then Revit add-in. Double click on it. Huh, it says Revit add-in.dll. That looks okay. So click out of that. Maybe it's another, go back to that folder though. Delete drafting training. Now get out of Revit. So go to Visual Studios actually, and
Like close out of Revit, you mean?
click that stop button. So in the middle where you clicked play, there should be a square button that's red. Red square button, click that. And now start. If anyone has
Oh, your microphone disconnected.
better, can you hear now?
Better. Yes.
So change that class 1 back to app. Just undo that change, James. And it has to be capital, the A. Hit the start button, and everything should be working now. What did it say? Errors. Hit no. Duplicate transaction attribute. Namespace Revit. Let's see. What does that say? Double click on that. So go back to Visual Studio. Double click on not the link part, just the words that say like the namespace Revit add-in, blah blah blah. Double click that. Duplicate transaction attribute. So it looks like you have 2 versions of the add-in because we had another solution from last time. So I think this is the one we want to keep. Double click the first error message, James. It says duplicate transaction attribute. The namespace Revit add-in already contained. Can I control your screen for a second? Do you have 2 versions of the solution? It already contains a definition file. Not exactly sure why. Let's see. It's not.
Well, if you want to continue, and I can just watch you guys because I don't want to take half the training. So I'll just watch you guys.
Okay. So get out of there.
You got further than me, James.
I'm having an error too. Do you want me to share my screen briefly to see if it's
Sure.
resolved or just
see if it's something quick. If not, then I'm just gonna proceed.
yeah. So there you go. That's what I got. And
this is not the correct app. So this is I think this is the same problem James is having actually. So it looks like you need to just delete this solution. I don't let me just grab control real quick. Where is this? Drafting training. The problem is there's two versions of this app.
Hmm.
We'll just call this one app 2 because we don't care about it. We'll run this app. Excuse me. Did you already have Revit running, Mike?
Yeah, but it started a new one.
Okay, I think it should be okay then.
Okay. Yeah, it's starting up on the screen. Okay. Thank you. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth it to up to.
Hit yes. Don't worry about that. That's the other add-in that we made last time. Just hit continue.
Oh,
Don't worry about it.
okay.
There's a green button, a green
Right here.
arrow button above, right there. So now you should be able to hop into Revit.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm gonna run the application in debug mode. If you're not able to get to this point, then you just follow along. But we're gonna go ahead and actually create a command that could do something. But you should be at a point where this drafting training pops up, and then you could see a mullion commands button. Like I said, if not, that's okay. Once you've gotten that or have it, you want to stop debugging for a second because you can't actually write code while you're debugging inside of Revit. It won't let you. You have to recompile it every time you want to make a change. So in the left-hand corner, there should be a little stop button. You want to click that. We're going to go into this walls command class, and we're going to do example 1, which is selecting walls in your project. So before I do that, I'm going to explain a little bit about what's going on here, which kind of will explain talking about data structures. So I broke it down in the slides. So in data structures are basically just like collections where you could have data. In C#, they have a bunch of different kinds of collections. They like to call them generic collections for the common kinds. You might have heard of these before: a list, a hash set, a dictionary. There's arrays. There's a lot of different types of collections. And we're going to be working with a couple of these to collect all of our walls in a project and save them and then be able to do stuff with them. And this T right here just means that you can specify the type of data that gets saved in your collection, whether it be a list collection or a hash set or a dictionary. And then it can be any type of data, such as a double, a string, or an int. And down here are some variable declarations as an example. Any general questions about data structures and what they're for? Okay. So another very important, useful tool is called LINQ. It's a .NET framework library that allows you to perform operations on data structures. It uses methods that accept a lambda operator, which is this little equals arrow thingy. And this allows you to do things on individual components inside of your data structures. And it allows you to access their methods or properties individually. And I'll kind of show you what I mean by that in this other example, where I explain kind of the two main methods that I use, at least in LINQ. They're pretty commonly used, and those are where and select. So say you had some type of data structure called original walls. If you call this where method on it and use the lambda operator, you can get all of the walls which are a unit. So you could effectively use where as a filter to get only the walls that are a unit. Another useful LINQ method is select, and it returns the results of the lambda. So again, I forgot to include this, but if you had a data structure that of walls, so basically a list or an array of walls, you can select their IDs using the select method. So you're going to get a list of IDs now because you selected the wall, and then or you selected each individual wall and you selected its ID. So the first method, where, is like a filter, and the second method, select, is a way of like getting something inside of that object and returning it as a different type of a data structure with a different type. So as I mentioned, we'll be using that. You don't need to understand everything, but I will talk about two other classes that are important. The first of which is an element class. This is a component of the Revit API. So in the Revit API, I'll just read this. A Revit element usually corresponds to a single component of a building or drawing, such as a wall, door, or dimension, but it can also be something more abstract like a wall type or a view. So basically, Revit elements are almost anything inside of Revit that you can create, such as a wall, a door, a dimension. And each of these elements has a unique ID called an element ID, which also has its own class. And many times through the API, you'll be using that element ID, or you'll be using that element to perform certain functions. Any questions about the element or any of the data structure stuff I mentioned before? Okay. The last thing I'll explain is another class called a filtered element collector. Looks like I forgot to finish the slide, but basically filtered element collector is another class inside of Revit, and you can use it to filter and search through Revit elements. So you can kind of think of it as a data structure. So it's like a list or storage container where you can store different Revit elements, and you can apply some filters in Revit to get what you want with it. So with those, I know that was a quick explanation, but with those things I just explained, we'll be able to actually do the first example in drafting training, which is select walls in a project. So you guys all should have this. So I think for this one, maybe we'll just select these lines. And then there's this on comment lines button over here. If you click this button, it'll delete those comments and it'll add these lines into our code. So now you should have lines 32 to 38. where you use a filtered element collector. And you use the filter of class and you get type of wall. So you're getting walls in this filtered element collector. And then you have this next line of code where you're getting walls as a list of walls, which is a different type of data structure. And you're using another LINQ method called of type, which filters out only items of type wall, and you're putting it into a list type of collection. It looks like I actually left a line out, so we'll just add it ourselves. So what we've done right here is we've gotten all of the walls in your project into a list, but to actually select them, we'll need to use this selection object. We'll do dot. I think the method is called set element IDs. So this method, as it explains here, it selects the elements. So you have to feed it an I collection of element IDs. So you need to feed it a special kind of data structure called an I collection, which is actually an interface. And you need element IDs, as I kind of explained before. The wall will be the element, but that wall will have an element ID, and that's what this method requires. It requires the element ID. So if you do set element IDs, and then you type wall collector, you can dot a method. It looks like there's actually already a method called toElementIDs, which I didn't even know about. And if you hit enter, it'll do it automatically for you. I'll type it all out, but you could just also type it all out. And then since it's a method, we need these parentheses. When you're typing code, it's nice to kind of separate stuff out, because in C#, if you want to, you can have a line that goes all the way from like here to all the way here. Like the code will still be valid, but it's kind of hard to read. So to make this more readable, I like to separate methods and like inputs and properties. So this is still one line of code. It's just a little easier to read because it's in 2 lines. To finish it, press the little curly bracket. And we added 1 line of code that uses the set element IDs method to select the element IDs that we filtered out for. So technically, now that we've added this code, if we hit start and click the button in our project, we should be selecting the walls in the project. So everyone's good here. Everyone who's following along, do you have any issues? Or are you able to get over to this part of the code? Okay. I'm going to assume that everyone was okay who's following along. So once we're there, hit that start button. We're going to be opening Revit again in debug mode. Make sure to hit the always load. It's taking its time. That requires an update. So we're going to open a project now in our documents folder in drafting training. This project called drafting training 3.rvt should have been copied over. So we're going to want to open that. Again, it's in the documents folder in drafting training. So we'll open that up. It's just a project I created that has a couple walls inside of it. So if we navigate to a 3D view, we have our 2 walls, and they don't really have anything in them. They're just 2 ROs and then I threw some units in them and some like random glass. So if we go to this drafting training button, when we click this button, it should now execute our commands. And when it does, it'll run through that code. If you see here, there are these breakpoints, and it's actually giving me this yellow symbol, which means that there's something wrong. It looks like it will not be hit because the source code is different from the original version, which means I probably edited something on accident. But I mean, let's just try to see if it runs through the code and it selects these walls. So it actually did it. So that means that for some reason the add-in was not loaded in successfully. So don't worry, we'll figure out why. I hit the stop button on the side. We'll go up to build. We'll just try rebuilding the solution. Sometimes this fixes the problem when something like this happens. So we recompiled all the code. I'll press start again. And to set these breakpoints, you just kind of click on the side here next to the line. It has to be in this gray section. And this means that the code will break at that point. And as I mentioned before, you'll kind of get to see what's going on in the code. So it's loading, doing its thing. Source code is different from the original version. I'll click this on accident. Oops. So for some reason, it looks like I have two versions of the file open. So let me close this version of the, I don't know why I have two solutions open. So I'll just close that one. I don't know how that happened. I'll rebuild this. Maybe I'll just add one random line of code to make sure that it recompiles it. Because sometimes Visual Studios, if the code is exactly the same, it won't recompile for you. So always load that. So if we go here, once everything's done loading, that breakpoint should not, conditional compilation or compiler optimizations. I was running this perfectly before the meeting. I don't know what happened. Let's see if it still able to select the walls. Nope. For some reason, it's not finding the file. So if we build this, we hit let's see, new solution explorer, open folder in file explorer. We can see exactly where we're working in. We can see where the add-in is being built. This is that folder where Revit should be reading from. We'll hit rebuild solution, maybe clean solution. Okay. That was weird. So environment debug. Looks like there's nothing in here. I'll hit build again. Everything was built. That should be okay. So if we go to C users a delete. So it looks like I'm actually not reading from this folder. So this actually is not the correct assembly folder. This assembly line in the .addin file needs to be changed to be that documents folder. It was a step that I actually forgot. I don't know how my code was even working before. I must have been reading something different. So in this folder, this whatever it is for you, in your documents folder, in Revit add-in bin/debug, that's what needs to go on this line of code here. And I'm pretty sure people are having trouble following along at this point, but I'm just going to keep proceeding. So this assembly line is now in the correct place where we're actually building the solution. So when we start up our project again, should be able to debug it. So this little warning sign should actually go away when we start up Revit. And it did. So this means that since we're running in debug mode, we can set breakpoints. And it'll actually hit them now that we fixed our issue. So if we navigate to 3D view, we execute our code, it should execute this execute method and then hit this breakpoint. So we go to drafting training, hit mullion commands. This little yellow arrow means that our code is running right now, and it actually hit this point of the code and it stopped because we stopped it with the breakpoint. Similarly, if we add another breakpoint up here with this green arrow button where it says continue, if you hit continue, it'll continue through the code. If you hover over any of the parts of the code that have already completed, you can right click over stuff. So if you have variables, such as like these variables up here, the selection, the doc, UI doc, or the wall collector, you can right click it. And there's a bunch of options, but the one that is pretty useful is this quick watch option, at least in my opinion. You get this quick watch option with the little sunglasses. This little menu will pop up under results view. You can see all of the wall objects that are inside of your filtered element collector variable. So each of these is actually an object inside of Revit. It's a wall that we filtered for. If we set another breakpoint, go through the code, this walls variable, which is taking the filtered element collector and converting it into a list of walls, which is just a different type of data structure. And we do a quick watch on it. we could see now it's pretty much the same thing, except under the type, it should say a list instead of a filtered element collector. And now if we just take this breakpoint out, hit continue again, we see that we've selected all of the walls that we filtered for. And the command basically worked. Any questions from anybody?
You run
I
the
know that was
command again?
kind of, sure.
Oh, okay.
So we have about 8 minutes left, everyone. Is there anything anyone would like to see in this amount of time? I have some examples that I kind of set up to show you guys that maybe there was something you guys might want to do in Revit that I can show you really quick. Any ideas from anybody? No?
Yeah, is there a way to like, let's say you have a wall, right? And you want to place curtain grids like every 5 feet. Is there a way to like just say like select this wall and then place them every 5 feet until you run out of room? So you don't have to manually go in and place each curtain grid at 5 feet. That makes
Pretty
sense.
much what they say with the Revit API is pretty much anything you could do with the user interface, you can do in the Revit API. So yeah, you could do that, James. So you're saying like take a curtain grid and then put verticals or horizontals?
Yeah, let's say verticals. Yeah, so
Say you
instead
wanted
of
to do
having
something like that.
yeah, exactly. Instead of having to go in and click each one, like, 5 foot, 5 foot, 5 foot, you can just select your wall, say 5 foot until it runs out, or, designate.
Yeah. You can definitely do that. Sorry, this is my stuff. I'm all over the place. But with just this code here, we could actually do that. So for those of you familiar with C++, Java, or any language like that uses for loops, I think pretty much every object-oriented program uses for loops, but in C#, there's a loop called like for each. And you can take data structure object, and then you can iterate through it. So I'm saying for each wall, and then the variable wall, lowercase, in walls, which is this object here. You can do something with it. I'm going to go kind of quick, but I think there's another object called curtain grid. And then there's a method called add grid line. So the first input of this, is it a U grid line? That means, is it a horizontal grid line? So we'll say, no, it's false. It's a vertical grid line. And then you need to figure out the position that you want to put that grid line at, James.
Mm-hmm.
So generally you'll have to like do some math and figure out where in XYZ coordinates you need to put that grid line. So this is actually not kind of non-arbitrary. It would take some amount of effort to do that.
Okay.
You'd have to calculate where each XYZ coordinate is that you want to put each grid line, which is doable, but it's going to require some vector math. You need to know like what direction is right relative to your wall. But we have 4 minutes left. Just going to comment that out and run through one more example really quick. Example 2, I have select a wall and set its elevation parameter. So I'm using a method that I created called select. This is actually an extension method. In C#, if you hover over a line of or something that you want to explore and hit the button F12 on the keyboard, it'll take you to another part of C#, or sorry, another part of Visual Studio. So in this case, I just went to this method that I created. And this is like a library that we have in this solution called extension methods. And these are actually methods that you guys could use with this solution that do make things a lot easier. In this case, you're able to select. It's supposed to say initiate UI prompt for user to select an element. The element will then be cast as type T. In our case, type T is a wall. So it's gonna prompt the user to select something. Null means that's basically no value. So if they didn't successfully select the wall, it'll get out of the commands. And after the wall has been selected, it'll use this set method parameter. Sorry, it's the set parameter method. It'll set a parameter name elevation to 01 in these 4 lines of code. So we'll start up Revit again. This is something I have to do a lot. Stop debugging and then restart it again whenever I make a change. It's pretty annoying. But as far as I know, there's no real workaround to this because of the way Revit loads in add-ins. So we'll go back to our Drafting Training 3 project. And since we didn't comment out these lines, when this command executes, it's going to select the walls. And then it's going to go down the code, and then it's going to set the parameter. It's going to prompt for a selection, and then it's going to set the parameter of that wall. So if we go to 3D view, this annoying zoom thing is in the way. Hit mullion commands. So it looks like it already selected in the background. So now it's prompting the user for a selection. We could just select this RO. And it did not set the parameter. So let's see why. So we can use our breakpoints. We can go to mullion command, select the wall. And we have a selected wall. It did that successfully. But when it executed the set parameter command, it did not set the parameter. So again, we can hit F12, go into that method. We're going to set another breakpoint. Continue. And this is pretty low level, so I think we'll stop here. But basically, there's a problem with this library I created where it's not setting the parameter for some reason. Yeah, guess that's it for today, guys. Thank you, unless you got some questions.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Alan.
Yeah,
It's cool
did
to
you get
see.
a lot more complicated than the first couple classes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's go back
okay.
to vocab.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about the taco?
I see back to tacos. I see a lot of confused faces.
Yeah, let's go back to flashcards.
Yeah, my Revit wouldn't. I ran into a problem loading it, so I was off the whole time.
You know my problems too, so.
And maybe next time, I don't know, like what I don't want to go where it's too simple and we don't feel like we're getting value out of it.
Maybe
But also-
smaller sessions.
Maybe smaller sessions.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe you could also do like a setup video, just like a quick, like something we could all pause and, you know,
To get
follow
set
along.
up beforehand.
Just like a
and
2
then-
minute setup.
Okay.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a good idea because there is a fair amount of setup that's been involved for the last couple, so that might help.
Yeah.
Part of it's my fault because it was a kind of a late minute ad. So
Yeah.
Alan only knew he was doing this class this morning, so apologize.
Yeah. I kind of put this together last minute.
No, I learned some stuff, but I could have learned more.
Yeah. I'll plan to teach another one of these classes, and maybe I'll take your advice and do a setup video that everyone can follow along.
Yeah, it's more work for you, but
Well, not really. Like, if you guys can follow along, it's worth it, you know? Yeah, any other feedback about the training?
it was cool to see how the Visual Studios works with Revit. I didn't realize how interrelated they were, and yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, it's somewhat, I wouldn't say it's seamless, but they're interconnected. Cool. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks a lot,
thank you.
man.
All right, see you guys.
But
Bye.
yeah.